There was a young man named Daniel who lived in a bustling city. He was full of ambition and had dreams of becoming a successful entrepreneur. However, despite his best efforts, Daniel found himself facing constant failure. He had launched several business ventures, pouring all his time, energy, and resources into them, but each one seemed to fall apart. His ideas would start strong, but then something would go wrong. Whether it was financial difficulties, lack of customers, or even his own lack of experience, the results were always the same: failure. Each failure left him feeling more defeated. He began to doubt his abilities and wondered if he was even cut out for success. The more he failed, the more isolated he felt from his dreams. His friends and family would console him, telling him that failure was part of the journey, but Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that he was wasting his time. Fear began to take over, and he avoided taking risks altogether. He was afraid of the same outcome: failure. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. Success seemed farther and farther out of reach, and Daniel couldn't understand why it was so hard to make progress. One day, while sitting at a cafe in the city, Daniel overheard an older man speaking to a group of young entrepreneurs. The man spoke with such wisdom and confidence about overcoming failure and turning it into strength. His words resonated with Daniel, who had been struggling for so long. After the talk, Daniel couldn't help but approach the man. "Excuse me, sir," Daniel said. "I've tried everything, but I keep failing. I don't know how to move forward anymore. Can you help me?" The older man looked at Daniel with a knowing smile. He invited Daniel to sit down with him for a cup of tea. "Failure," the man began, "is not the end, Daniel. It's simply part of the process. It's a lesson waiting to be learned. Let me share a story with you." Daniel sat up straight, eager to hear what the man had to say. The older man's voice was calm, but his words were powerful. Many years ago, there was a blacksmith named Marcus. He was known in his village for his skill in making swords and shields. But Marcus wasn't always a great blacksmith. In the beginning, he made countless mistakes. His swords would bend or break, and his shields were weak. The villagers began to laugh at him, calling his work useless. Despite this, Marcus didn't give up. Instead, he worked harder, learning from each failure and improving his technique. The older man continued. One day, a wise traveler passed through the village and noticed Marcus working at the forge. The traveler watched him for a while, then approached Marcus and asked, "Why do you keep going? Your work is not appreciated, and yet you don't stop. What drives you?" Marcus looked up, sweat dripping from his brow. He replied, "I know that my work is not perfect, but I believe that every mistake is a lesson. I want to create the best swords and shields, so I keep trying, learning from each failure. I will not let the failures define me." The traveler nodded, impressed with Marcus's perseverance. He handed Marcus a broken sword and said, "This sword may look ruined, but it contains a lesson. Study it, and you will find where you went wrong." Marcus took the sword and studied it carefully, identifying the flaws in his technique. He learned from that sword, and over time his skills improved. Eventually, he became the most respected blacksmith in the land, known for crafting weapons of great strength and beauty. The older man turned to Daniel. Marcus learned from every failure. His failures weren't defeats. They were stepping stones to greatness. Just like Marcus, you must learn to turn your failures into valuable lessons. Every mistake brings you one step closer to success. Daniel sat in silence, processing the story. For the first time in a long while, he felt a shift in his perspective. "I've been treating my failures as something to avoid, something that defines me," Daniel said softly. "But Marcus used his failures to grow. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to stop fearing failure and start learning from it." The older man smiled gently. "Exactly. Failure doesn't mean you're not good enough. It simply means you're trying. And trying Failing and learning from those failures is the path to growth. Think about it. The greatest people in history failed far more times than they succeeded, but they didn't let failure stop them. They used it as fuel to keep going. Daniel's eyes opened wider, and a sense of clarity washed over him. He realized that failure was not a reflection of his worth, but rather a necessary part of the journey. He needed to embrace failure, learn from it, and keep moving forward. Instead of seeing failure as an obstacle, he saw it as a powerful tool for growth. From that day onward, Daniel made a conscious decision to change his mindset. He no longer viewed failure as something to avoid. Instead, he began to embrace it as a learning opportunity. With each new venture, Daniel took calculated risks, knowing that failure was a possibility. But rather than fearing failure, he focused on learning from the setbacks. When things didn't go as planned, he would analyze what went wrong and adjust his approach. His first few steps weren't perfect. He made mistakes, and things didn't always go smoothly. But each mistake taught him something new. He began to see failures as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. As he learned from his experiences, he gained more confidence and developed a stronger sense of resilience. Slowly, his business ventures started to improve. He made smarter decisions and saw more success. The more Daniel faced failure and learned from it, the more he grew as an entrepreneur. His transformation wasn't instant, but with time, he became more successful both in business and in life. Years later, Daniel became a well-known and respected entrepreneur. He had learned to turn his failures into strengths, and now he helped others do the same. When people asked him about his success, Daniel always shared the story of Marcus, the blacksmith who turned his mistakes into lessons. The key to success is not avoiding failure, Daniel would say. The key is learning from failure and using it to grow stronger. He leaned in and looked at those who sought his advice, asking, "What about you? Are you ready to turn your failures into your greatest strengths? Are you ready to learn from your mistakes and unlock your full potential?"